Give it another shot.
Flip the bottom of your phone up, just with your finger, like pull it up and it should come up. That's what my phone did. It wasn't there on mine either.
What are you doing? You're doing this Zoom.
No. Who's there with you, Johnny?
Steve.
Okay, that's that.
Oh, now it came up again and it disappeared. I got to touch it. So what do I hit? Share or start video?
Start video.
Okay, how's that?
There he is.
There you go. Now, Ryan and Johnny, can you guys turn your phone sideways? That's better, Johnny. That's better for both of you. All right. Well, 4 o'clock on the nose. No technology issues at all, and we are missing a couple people that said they were going to give it a college try, which was I had Jay and Billy, and June was supposed to be helping Billy, so I have no idea where we are with that. But
it's probably safer without Billy.
You never know. You never know. So, all right, let's go around here. Larry, let's start with you. Let's go with names and where you're at, and let's just go all the way around here.
Yeah, Larry Blyle. I'm here in nice and warm Key West. Mighty quiet. Not a lot going on down here. As everybody knows, we're like the largest gated community in the world.
I got to get this call real quick, Roderick.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm here and I'm in my office in Key West. That is a tiki hut that's goes with the area, and it's a beautiful day, but quiet. And what more can I say?
Right on, Larry. Thanks for joining us. Well, Roger Cox here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and just at the office, and getting ready for another one of these Zoom videos. So, Lee, is that you next?
All right, man. So Lee Stanford here. I'm sitting in my shop in central New Jersey. I'm up in South Plainfield. We just had some sleet and some really cold, windy weather pass by, but we're all doing good. Everybody's staying in and behaving.
Good. Chris?
Chris Uzzolina, here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Just enjoying the good weather and the weekend. Seems like everybody's kind of staying in, and roads are a little lighter, but the food stores are a madhouse.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, how about you, Johnny? Where are you at?
Miami, baby. It's hot. It's hot. Weather's beautiful. I'm going to take you guys outside. And
is the hot air gonna kill the coronavirus?
Yeah, that's what we all heard here. You want to see some manatees? I got a pot of them out here. I don't know if you can see them out there. But there's 2 of them right there. But no, everything's good. We're just trying to get some work done. You know, it's real slow right now as usual. The marina has to be closed. We're able to do service work and work on some boats and stuff. We're putting one in the water right now. That's actually a boat here for service, a brand new quad 450 Sea Hunter. It's going in. So we're able to do very little. Just all our storage customers are unhappy because they can't go boating, but it's law. We're not allowed to put them in, you know. And here's that. That's going in right now.
Right on.
And, you know, so we're just doing a little bit of service, but I got a skeleton crew here and the marina's closed. But it's really hot and sunny, that's for sure. Just like it is for Larry, I would imagine.
Right. All right, Ryan.
I'm here in Bradenton, Sarasota, Florida, at the shop. Been here the whole time. My one guy that's working for me these days is working half days, and other than that, Connor's home with Debbie. Luckily, she works from home most of the time, so she's been staying home with him a lot. And I've got some small projects going on, kind of, you know, a lot of my big projects are on hold right now. I just talked to one of the Super Cat guys today, and his crew chief said, yeah, don't spend any of my money right now. So I've got 2 Super Cat guys.
Right.
Don't spend our money.
Right. What's it like down there, just with the virus and the people and the stores? I mean, like
we're not Sound like Johnny is over there, or Chris in North Carolina, or you guys in North Carolina. We're on 10 o'clock curfew, I think, in Bradenton. And it's, restaurants are pickup only. You can't go out and have dinner or lunch anywhere. I've been going home to eat lunch every day, saving some money, actually. And it's not bad. And the roads are probably about 50% of the people are on them from what it normally would be right now.
Right. Well, hopefully, I was talking to Johnny the other day, and hopefully, how horrible this is, we're slightly hopeful that it might be able to open up sooner than later, but I just don't know if that's possible. With so many, cities and states that are coming on this, here at the tail end, I should say tail end, but everyone's starting to peak at different times. I heard on our local news here that there was 3 people in the Charlotte airport. I can't imagine that, only those types of numbers are people getting off a plane by themselves. So, we can only hope that for all of us in our businesses and families and friends and everybody, we can just, get back on track. It's absolutely the most bizarre thing I think I've ever seen in my entire life. So,
Roderick, did I send you that link the other day? That link on how they're looking at this on peak resource day and
no.
amount of deaths project. I thought I sent you a link. Randy Sism sent it to me.
Oh.
And it's projections of the United States. Well, I looked at it on Monday, and on Monday it said for the United States, April 11th was going to be peak resource day that they felt, and they're going to be short like 13 or 14,000 beds
Right.
in hospitals. But then when you put in Florida, it has peak resource day as April 21st with no bed shortage, no ICU bed shortage. On Monday, it said they predicted 1,900 ventilators would be needed in Florida on April 21st. Today, it says 1,300. And then on deaths, on April 21st for Florida, they had a peak amount of deaths on April 21st as 221 on Monday. And this morning, it says 140 something.
Well, that's sort of good news then.
Yeah, and then on the United States, it said projected deaths by August 4th, it said 60,000. And then that was on Monday, and this morning, it said 43,000. And then for Florida, by August 4th, it said 6,700 on Monday, and today it said like 4,300
Right.
on August 4th. So I don't know if that's
no doubt all those models that they were projecting to be so high, I think the success of everybody separating and social distancing definitely has, like Fauci has said, the models are going to change. So I think that's been fantastic for us. So
it looks like it's changing for the better, whatever that means. Those are only projections. The highs and lows are much lower and much higher. But
Right.
All right, I'll send it to you.
Let's see if we can sort of hit the road here with sort of the purpose of this. And one, it was bringing different people together. That was our plan, and we were successful with our first one. Now we're on our second one, and I sent it out to about 12 people and see how many people show up. And we got 3 good people here today. So, and we got people in different classes and potentially a couple new boats. So first, Chris, let's, happy to have you because you're here in Charlotte, which is awesome. And that's pretty neat. You're over there on the west side of the lake. So tell me a little bit about your team, share with some people out there. We have no problems with any racing organization. So we're all a big family here. We don't care where you've been, what anybody has done. So just share a little bit with us, about yourself.
We're based out of the Charlotte area, North Carolina. I have Rob Hartman as my throttleman going into next season, and we started end of last year together. We had the boat for 2 seasons now in the Pro Stock B class. We had a pretty good Englewood Worlds last year, and basically this year, knowing that we had a competitive boat and me and Rob work well together in the boat, we focused on safety. Just after, the crash at Key West and some of the other things that happened this year, it makes you start kind of reevaluating whether you're in a cat or a V-bottom, things that we've been doing for the last 20 years in the offshore industry. So we have a lot of focus. We took the boat completely apart and been working with some pretty cool vendors in Carolinas, being that we're in Race City here. We have resources. I used to work for a Hendrick company. So I reached out to some resources that I had there, and we're going to be releasing some information on what we had done, and seats and all kinds of stuff that we've doing something different. Might not work, but we're focusing on safety. That was our key thing for the off season.
Oh man, I think everybody needs to do that. I think that's fantastic. So, and you run a Phantom, right? So you're
Yep.
you're in a pretty full class. You got you get to go to some events that have a lot of people in there, right? I mean,
Yeah, the competition in that class is anybody's race. Any day, anybody's race. It's very competitive. This off season, we had talked about putting a carbureted motor in the boat, but with making all the changes, we thought it was too much stuff at once. We wanted to be able to know where the boat was from where it used to be with all the changes we made and just the timeline. But being that we've had a little delay in our start of the season, we might still finish up the motor that's been sitting on the stand here and maybe put a carb motor in it and race some carb classes.
right. Great. All right, Ryan. So if we were talking about Inglewood, you had a pretty good Inglewood, right?
Things went our way that day. Much like Chris, it was the day for us, and we went harder than anybody else wanted to go. So it was the day for our boat. We definitely never had the fastest boat, but it worked out that day.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people know what it's like to, finish at the end, and we may not have the fastest, but I mean, it takes a lot to be there in the end. So I think that's been great. What was, obviously winning, but what was there a particular moment in Inglewood that stood out for you that like, man, this is, it could have been in the morning, it could have been at night, it could have been whenever, but was there any particular moment that like, man, I had a great day. I'm really happy.
Well, yeah, it was the whole thing was spectacular for me. It was we've had a really rough 18 months. When I got sick 2 years ago with my heart problem, and then had to be out of the boat for a while, and then the people that were running my boat crashed it, and we had issues, and then which that crash led to issues all year long. So
right.
To finally break through, even Key West this year, we had issues all week. The boat didn't run right all week. So the last year, the roughest race in probably the last 2 years since the big Cocoa Beach race a couple years ago, I told my driver before, I said, this is our day, but we're going to have to do things nobody else wants to do today. And Greg Dorenzo was driving, and he's a motocross guy, so he wasn't worried about it. And 2 laps to go, we were catching him a little bit, Jay Muller and Albert in the phase 5. And he's like, we're right there. Let's get him now. And I'm like, yeah, we got 2 laps to go still. We need to finish first, then we're worried about beating them.
Right.
And even when we were catching them, on the last half a lap, he's like, I'm going to get outside of them. And we'll go by. I'm like, no. We're going to go right up their tail until we have to go by them. And by the time we caught them, they couldn't react fast enough. We passed them in the last third of a lap, and there was a couple back markers from V-Light class there to help pick them off. And it was one of the most exciting things I've had happen since I started racing in 1995. 1993 was my first race. So it was really cool, and I cried.
That's great. I know there's a lot of people that were, really proud for you and happy for you. So that's great. Johnny, have you ever driven or throttled either one of these 2 kinds of boats, a stock or a Phantom?
Not a Phantom, no. We're actually putting one together right now, but no, I just stock boat, a little bit, many years ago in the 80s, and then pro stock boat in the early 90s, and then after that, none at all unless I'm messing around with Gary Blue and his boat. I think I drove his boat one race in Michigan City a couple of years ago. Gotcha. It's a great class. A lot of fun. It's a really, really good class.
Definitely growing. What was your first race, John?
In the Molson Indy boat with Lauren Leibel, 19
what? How about that for a showstopper?
It was 1986, and Marathon was his first race.
Ryan, you got just as good a memory as Johnny does. And what about yours, Chris?
John, do you know this is the first place you raced 30 years?
Johnny, your audio's struggling a little bit. lift up your left leg and your right arm. See if that does it. So. Chris, when was your first race?
First race was about 3.5 years ago in a 6-boat that I had built in what would have been St. Clair.
St. Clair.
Yeah.
That's a neat location.
Yeah.
And so we did that, ran it with Lauren, and now going full circle. I ran with Lauren again in 95 in the Labatt's Genuine Draft, and now it looks like we're going to do it again in 2020.
Okay, so let's repeat the last 3 sentences because we got nothing of what you said. But
Okay,
so you're
you hear me
yeah.
now? Yeah. So
you're
I started.
campaigning.
Started
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I started with Lauren in 1986 as his navigator, and then I raced for him in the Labatt's Genuine Draft boat in 1995, and now 2020 looks like we're going to do it again, kind of going full circle from where I started.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Ryan, have you? And I'll ask all three of you, but what's been your most frightening time, in a boat over your years, and you've been racing a long time, so you've had some tough moments, I'm sure.
I've probably rolled like 3, 4, 5 times, and honestly, none of them have been super scary, I would say. Luckily, thank goodness. The most scared I've ever been is, when I've run my little boat, when I've had to run my 24 skater pleasure boat. And a lot of that's being in a boat that small. And a lot of times my son was driving, Chris.
Right.
So, and I'm not worried about him. I'm not worried about us. I'm more worried about big boats running us over.
You're right. Right. And everyone has that concern, in some of these races.
I had a race with Johnny once where we were racing in Key West, and I was in a Factory 336 skater with Andy Trout. And Johnny and Forrest Barber were making a charge on Bob Morgan to beat him at the Worlds. And I remember coming into the harbor turn, I was doing about 100, so Johnny was probably doing about 140. And I looked over and I saw the whites of Forrest Barber's eyes next to me coming into the harbor turn. That's probably been the closest I've ever, and I remember talking to both of them after the race. And I don't know if
you remember that, Johnny?
I remember the races. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I talked to Forrest last week also by coincidence. But yeah, I remember back then. Yep.
What a great guy.
That might have been when we ran, Ryan, that was probably when we had the Eichert engines and we ran in Superboat Unlimited down there. Because the following week we went to St. Pete with the open class engines.
Yeah, it was
so
when
we
you
even had more power in that boat then.
Yeah.
How about Chris? How about you? Have you had a little bit of if you're talking about safety and doing some smart things, which is great because maybe everyone's trials and tribulations.
Yeah, I've been fairly new to the sport, right? I started 3 years ago. It's actually pretty cool to be on here. I grew up watching races from parents' boats on the Hudson when Superboat used to race on the Hudson and all that stuff when I was a kid. So it's pretty cool to be involved in a sport I watched, when I was younger and really liked. I had the opportunity to get in a 6-boat and try it out, and that was it. I was hooked. After running one race in the bracket class, I never raced another bracket class. I went out and bought the Phantom. I wanted to step up and move up, but every time you're out on the race course, there's always one or two things where you're like, well, that could have gone really bad, and so learning experience, and hopefully it's one of those deals. I used to race motorcycles, and they used to say there's only 2 kinds of riders, ones that have gone down and ones that haven't gone down yet. So I'm sure that applies to all kinds of racing. But like I said, we focused on safety this off season, but it's just awesome to be part of the sport and watching how much it's growing, and being able to stand there next to people that, like I said, I've watched race and stuff like that. So
Johnny, if you were to give advice to not necessarily everybody on the screen, but people that are maybe have raced a fair amount, maybe raced 2 or 3 years or 4 years, and maybe they were in a bracket class, or maybe they're in a stock boat, who knows? But do you have any advice on the importance of getting your boat right, or the importance of being able to communicate inside the boat and have a good team driving and what to do?
Well, really, it takes the entire package to be successful consistently. You definitely got to have the 2 guys in the boat gelling. You got to have the guys behind you that are taking care of the equipment and getting the right equipment and the right engine package. So it's really a whole package, and that's what always makes up a team. And, you know, it gets a little cliche, you know, saying over and over, but that's what it is. It's a team effort. It's one of those sports that takes a team effort, and that's how you get successful. And I've always felt once you surround yourself with a team that it's not, you don't have to have the best guys. It's mainly a group that understands each other and is willing to put in the hard work and really gets along. And then the experience takes over, and you get more experience together as a team, and you get more seat time in the boat, and all that adds up. And it's little pieces here and there that add up. It's never a aha moment where you go from, okay, I'm doing this, now all of a sudden I'm beating everybody. It's the little small things and the differences that you do and make over the years that slowly get you better and better and better as a team. And what's tough is, you know, you have a team, and then 2-3 years later, that team's disbanded and you're starting over again. Those are always a little bit of frustration.
Right. All right. Let me throw out a question to you, Ryan. Ryan, if you watched last week's video or earlier this weekend, I've lost track of time. But what's it like for you in the milling circle? You're in a big group of boats. I mean, you could have, you know, 6 or 8 or 10 or 11, you know, boats in a milling circle doing a perfect circle all the way around, waiting for smoke and waiting for yellow flag and the boat to sort of head out. I mean, what's your thought process, or are you trying to be somewhere, or are you trying to make sure something doesn't happen? What's your mental?
It's probably the calmest time for me is once you're out there and it's idling around, believe it or not. One thing you never do is you never shut it off once it's running. You're idling around, or some people say, whoa, we're idling for a long time. Shut one off. No, I never shut them off. You don't ever shut one off.
Either here.
Yeah, I think I've heard Johnny say that.
Yeah. So I idle around. I'm pretty calm. We'll usually pick out somebody we don't want to be near. You know, once we roll around to the, you know, making a start, or other than that, the milling area is not. I was surprised to hear Tyler say he throws up in the milling area. That shocked me. But
Right.
We don't have a milling area usually.
So, you know, I've watched, you know, all these races. I've watched it on live stream as I've done them. And, you know, I always see people on the back of the milling circle always seem to be, I guess, slow to get up to the line. And then they get accused of shotgunning. You know, I mean, is it hard to be on the back side of the milling circle when things are ready to go and try to get in line? For any of you, I don't care who answers.
Sometimes that's how you come out. And, you know, you're going to come out at milling circle wherever they put the yellow up and take you on plane. And every once in a while, they get on a plane when your back's turned. So you get out of the back of the milling circle. Sometimes in these quick starts, when they don't line you up, the guy comes out of the back, gets a slingshot start because he's wide open chasing everybody. And sometimes that can benefit you greatly. And sometimes you never get the chance and the field runs off and leaves you before you line up. So it can go either way. It's really up to the starter to line everybody up, and that's what he should do. So it is a fair start, but it can go either way for you.
Right.
Well, I've had a question brought up to me about the starts, you know, with the running starts like we do and all that, and how some people feel like they have an advantage and not have an advantage of doing an idle start where they line up idled and throw the green flag from idle. What's your thoughts of that?
You know, you could do it. You're going to have some boats that aren't going to be able to see getting on a plane, and some that will be able to see. So that could be a little sketchy. But some of these boats don't get on a plane very well. Some get on a plane much quicker than others. But that would change things, because if you got the boat set up tall for top end, it's going to take longer to get up on a plane. So that would change my strategy on especially these race courses on a flat water race, depending on the length of the straightaway, because shorter prop, you're going to get up quicker and get rolling quicker. I've never done that before, but, you know, I don't know. I think you go through a learning curve doing it. It may work, but they definitely have a hard time lining everybody up and getting fair starts, because at 50, 60 miles an hour, if everybody's lined up and they don't flag it, now you're over halfway to the first turn, and that's a big nightmare there, going in the first turn on a quarter mile or half mile run up. So I always believed you should start the races off the course and everybody's up and running, and then they enter the course and they got that full straightaway. But starting from a plane, some boats it's going to be hard to get up. Some will get up. You can do it, but you could do it.
Right. Ryan, how about let me ask you this question. If you had a preference of, I guess, being sort of trying to get into that line, and you have, I guess I said, you have a field of maybe 10 boats, and not to be naive, but I wouldn't know if there's as much water coming from behind the boats as there is maybe the Super Cats in comparison to maybe, the Pro Stock Vs or the smaller boats. Which one of those two classes would you choose to be in if you weren't in yours and you had a chance to, compete like that?
I'd always pick a Super Cat.
Right.
For sure. But, I mean, they move a lot of water, no doubt. I mean, a V-Light, I've raced a V-Light one time, and that was enough for me. But those guys take a beating, and they're on the razor's edge all the time in a V-Light. But I would definitely want to race Super Cat if I had the opportunity.
Chris, do you have a lot of friends that, as you race and say, man, you are in the air more than you're on the water, I mean, and like Ryan said, you definitely take a beating. I mean, what's it like getting shaken around in your boat?
Englewood, perfect example. Englewood was brutal on Sunday. I mean, we were getting the shit kicked out of us inside there. We hit one time so hard it knocked the wind out of Rob. He wasn't breathing. He was struggling for air. It knocked a good shot on him, and we just tried to keep the boat together. And Ryan said, those boats are on the edge. You're wheeling it the whole time. You're wheeling it. You're throttling it. You're trying to keep the boat in the water as much as you can, obviously, because when you're in the air, you ain't going anywhere. But they're fun. It's like running a dirt bike wide open out there. You're all over the place. It's cool.
Right. That's good.
It definitely, when we usually run with Ryan's class and all that, and when you're coming into that turn and Nary Baloo uses you as a pick, and like he said, they take the paint off the side of the boat, use some perspective with, but it's fun no matter what. You just got to be willing to get a couple days of going to the chiropractor and getting fixed. It's not a smooth ride like the Cats. So.
Right. It's a Cadillac in those cats, isn't it, John? All right, Lee. How about
rough ones will beat you up, but those V bottoms, those will knock your teeth out for sure. I wouldn't want to have a 25. I wouldn't want to have a 30-year career in a V bottom. I'd be hurting.
I bet you would. Lee, what are you doing there, man?
I was looking at a couple things. I got questions for all three of you guys. The first question is, what's the craziest thing you've seen on a race course that you've had to avoid? The craziest thing. Ryan, you first.
I was actually idling in last year in Key West when the two boats blew over and looking out my window and watched it happen. And I thought, did that really just happen?
Right.
Right.
Right on the radio, and I was calling it in. That was the craziest thing I'd ever seen.
Right. Yeah. How about you, John? John, what's the craziest thing you've seen on the course?
How about you, Chris?
I guess first race in the V-Light, going in the turn one, two boats, Alpenta, and I forgot who the other boat was. In front of us spun out going into the turn. That was lap one, turn two. So that was a, craziest thing I've been involved in as of yet. I've spun the boat a couple of times, but to watch it in front of you happen and have to make a split-second decision was,
Sure.
Wasn't there a naked swimmer in Clearwater like last year or the year before?
2 years ago, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't see him. Just, I was too far away. But, hey, Larry, what's the craziest thing you've seen?
I've seen it all. Where? I don't know. I live in Key West, so I've seen a lot of crazy things down here. That's for sure.
Hey, so John, let's maybe this isn't the craziest, and I didn't mean to take it away from you, Lee, but I think you told me this story one time, and I'm sure probably everybody knows, but you stopped your Class 1 boat in Key West and jumped out to help somebody, or stopped and got out on your deck to help somebody?
Yeah, I got the question. I can barely, for
Speak
some
up.
reason my volume went away, but I can barely hear you. But yeah, I was racing a 40 skater in 1994 when Tom Gentry and Richie Powers went over. And that was back when we were running like a 12-mile lap. So there was just no rescue there. And I jumped out to swim over to try and assist. And I didn't get anything done. I mean, by the time my boat coasted and I jumped out, I was so far away that I swam there as fast as I could. By the time I got there and made my first dive underneath the boat, the divers were coming out of the helicopter. So I did assist in that, but I don't think I got anything done. They were there by then. But at the time, we ran the bigger race courses, and you didn't have the rescue like you do now on 4-mile race courses.
Right.
So that, and then to answer the craziest thing question, I don't know if you asked me or not since I couldn't hear. I was, I was behind Bob Morgan when he blew over coming in the harbor. That was pretty wild watching that big boat go over right in front of us. But I was racing the Class 1 Jolly Motors boat in St. Petersburg, Russia, in the Gulf of Finland. And there's probably 11 or 12 Class 1 boats then. We all started our race and coming down the main straightaway. The next lap around, I remember running side by side with Randy Sism in one of the victory boats. I was in the Jolly Motors boat. We were probably 3rd, 4th place at the time. And there was a guy out in the middle of the Gulf of Finland, an old man inside an inner tube fishing. And I don't know how we didn't see him at the start, but when we came around for the next lap, he was right in front of us. And I remember Randy in the number 7 victory team boat, me in the Jolly Motors boat, just splitting the guy. He went on one side and I went on the other side, and it was a flat water race. We were probably running 140 or so. And we didn't see him till the last minute. And I was thinking we could have taken that guy right down the tunnel.
Right.
And next lap we came around, it was probably an 8-9 mile lap. He was gone. He was gone. I'm sure he swam right off the course or something, but it was an old guy inside an inner tube way out in the Gulf of Finland, which is the ocean, fishing right in the middle of the race course.
How far away do you think you were from him?
How what?
How far away from him do you think you were?
Oh, 10 feet. He went right down. He went right in. We put him right in between us, in between the two boats, because we were probably, 30 feet from each other running side by side. And we just let him, he went down right in between us.
Right. Hmm.
Only over there, I guess.
Yeah, so I'd say that's a lucky. There's been a couple people on jet skis and different things, and
Yeah.
that's
I got to get my volume. For some reason, I got a phone call, and I declined the phone call, and then my volume went away.
I can't help you on that.
Keep going. I'm going to try and get it back.
Ryan, do you like kilos or record runs, or have you been successful or done any of those before?
Never done a kilo run before. I'm more interested in doing some of these endurance runs. We've done a couple. I did the Bimini run a couple years ago in our boat. We tried to do around Long Island a couple years ago in Chris Lamort's 36 skater, and we picked a rough day to do it and weren't able to finish. But we're trying to do Nigel's Bahamas 100 run this year, if it happens, if our current situation ends and we're able to.
Right.
But I'm doing that older stuff, and I'm into doing, like you guys were talking about the other day on the first call, of having some longer races. I'd be all for longer races, and definitely for a little bit longer laps. I know I've been in your guys' ear and Larry's ear about it, of making the race courses a little bit longer.
Right. And so I guess maybe for all of you, maybe not as much for Chris, but I mean, if you're making it around the course, pretty quickly, what's the advantages of making it a longer race course?
I'm more just about making it a little bit more endurance, make it the course a little safer by stretching it out and not making so much maybe of the racing in the corners as it is. And like in Key West, you hear people talk about, we're at the wall, we're turning at the wall. And nowadays people are like, we're at the wall. I mean, no, the wall's like another 3 miles out. The wall's not right here at the edge of the harbor.
Right.
Let's go a little bit further. Just, a little bit rougher courses, a little bit rougher racing, like Inglewood was rough. It works for me. And I'd be more for that.
Right. And Johnny, maybe you feel the same way, or do you feel these courses have gotten really small, and you've raced, in Europe where they have a long lap and such? I mean, how do you feel about it? Okay, good talking to you, John. Can you hear me?
Talking to me, Roger? I can't get my volume back. Oh, what'd you say? Go ahead.
Well, do you like long laps or do you like the longer course?
Depends when you ask me. You know, I mean, I know the shorter laps are better. It's safer for rescue getting to us. You have a chance of more incidents happening because 90% of the time the accident's in the turn. But I understand they got to be shorter. I think longer races could be, you know, less chance of having an incident because you have less turns. You know, you throw a 20-lap race on a 4-mile course, next thing you know, we're doing 70, 80 turns. So that's
Right.
where it all happens. But I know you got to get spectators, you got to get safety, you got to control and secure a race course. And, you know, I don't know anything about getting these permits that you guys do, but I'm sure you'd have a hard time, you know, doing a 10 or 15-mile course. But the shorter courses are definitely more exciting for everybody watching, seeing the race, viewing the race. But you have definitely more chance of incidents happening for sure.
Right.
And depending on, you know, the longer races, you probably got a better chance of the faster boats making ground and getting around. It's usually a lot harder to pass on the shorter races unless you're significantly quicker than the guys in front of you.
Right. Chris, coming to you then, what about, you know, your fleet of boats, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it may be, going out to the first turn, and you got, you know, again, you're getting beat up a little bit. I mean, do you prefer that it's spread out, or do you prefer some other guys next to you to make it look like you're competing?
I don't have anything to compare it to, you know, actually racing. I don't mind the size of the courses that they've been right now. The multi-turns that they put in is actually kind of cool instead of the just, you know, your 2-pin turn. They're doing 3 and some of them 4-pin. The dog leg gives an opportunity to change. I wouldn't mind racing a little longer courses. I like the rough water. The rougher the better. I don't mind getting beat up out there. I like the rough water races, race of attrition, you know. Picking the setup for the rough waters is me and Rob both enjoy it. He's a Long Island guy. He's done the Long Island Sound. I'm originally from New Jersey. I prefer rough water.
Well, that's good. I mean, it sounds like all three of you are like that. So, Ryan, how about, have you ever been like, or when has been the time that you have been so pissed that you missed the setup on a race that you've started and you're like, I don't even want to start this damn race?
I'm always excited about being a race, but I'm definitely not the best setup guy, and I've missed more than I haven't on setup. So I don't know one in particular, but like last year at Michigan City, we were chasing a problem all week, and we worked on the boat. We ran the boat like 3 days before the race. We had the Mercury techs there. We picked away at it, got the boat better, better, and better. And we go, well, maybe it's okay. And by the time the green flag goes, and I know they said that on the call the other day, you know, in the first 600 feet that you're beat or not. And we got out there for Michigan City last year and went, and we knew when the green flag was up, we knew we were lapped by then.
Right. And there's probably not too many people you can blame, I would assume. So
I mean, we faced the problem, and it ended up being something really stupid. I got home from a couple days later and figured it right out, but it was like, it's pretty frustrating to know you got nothing right when it starts.
Right. How about you, John? John?
Yeah. Hang on. Go ahead.
When's been the most frustrating time that you missed your setup?
You there? Hello?
Yeah. Did you hear the question?
Most frustrating, missing the setup?
Yeah.
I gotta think.
And surely you took responsibility for it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. What's that? I can't hear you, Roger.
That's all right. Do you have
I
it, John?
can't hear you.
Yeah, your signal's dropping a little bit there, John. So, okay, Larry, have
Yes.
you missed the setup before?
I've missed the setup a lot.
Is it the same for motocross?
Yeah, I was talking, you know, hearing Chris here, I don't know if people realize it, but my background originally was motocross racing, dirt track, half mile, moved into road racing. I road raced motorcycles around the world with Yamaha doing that. And then, so motorcycle racing, road racing is all in setup. You know, I was fortunate that I had some good equipment and some good people around me at the time. And in road racing, I ran back then the 750 TZ 750s when they came out, and ran the Daytona 200 and all that stuff. And I wasn't a factory bike, but it was the factory bike that I got as a privateer. And what would get me is I'd be going down the back straightaway at Daytona, tucked in, doing 160, 170, and have the factory Yamaha go by me like I was tied to a fence post. And, you know, I go back to them and go, you know, guys, what's going on? Oh, we got the same engines you got. We got everything the same. It's not. So, you know, setup and equipment is everything.
Right.
Moving on from there, you know, into cars, I raced for Porsche for 7 years doing that stuff. And there again, if you're not dialed in right, geared right, everything, everybody is so good and the equipment is so good that everything is miniature adjustments.
Right.
If you're not on perfect, you're mid-pack.
Right.
Over with. So racing has gotten so good that way with the equipment and being able to set up correctly and set up for the tracks. That's all part of the game. That's all part of racing.
Right. Well, as I said on the last call, last time we did this, you know, this wasn't meant to be one-sided. You know, I got
you back.
Hey, all right.
I had to completely log out and get back in.
So now you can hear us?
Now I can hear you. Sorry about that.
Oh, no. We were talking about you, so we're solid now.
That's okay. Then we're good.
So
I have a question.
Yeah.
No, I just want to go, Chris, Ryan, John, what's the smallest change you made that had the biggest impact? Smallest change, biggest impact. Chris.
We talking like testing or in racing?
Racing, setup, whatever you want to call it. You know, a carb, it could be a carb adjustment or prop change. What's the smallest adjustment that had the biggest impact?
We did some testing before Englewood and playing with spacers, and I made a small quarter-inch change on the spacer.
It makes a difference, yeah.
It made a difference the wrong way. I mean, the boat was unusable with a quarter-inch difference. I would have bet my lunch money on that it was going to go the other way, and the boat didn't handle, didn't run, lost speed, was just horrible for a quarter-inch.
There you go. All right, your new nickname is Mr. Quarter Inch. Ryan, what do you got?
Right.
Our boats are a little more finicky than that even, and we move stuff. We move motor heights in minimal amounts of weight. We move motor heights a 1/16 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, and it makes a huge difference on what we do to water pressure, to everything. So our boats are so finicky. They weigh so little, and we have so little horsepower and torque that everything we do makes a difference. And we move weight in our boats inches, and it makes a huge difference.
Right.
Wow. How about you, John?
Yeah, our boats aren't that sensitive. They go through the same amount of changes, but they're not as sensitive as the stock boats or the single engine V bottoms and drive height. So we can go up and down in drive heights and not see huge differences. Main thing is getting them really balanced right to where you can be consistent around a bumpy race course, and that can be a matter of just shifting 100 pounds, you know, forward of your feet or back behind your seat, just so you can fly that boat in a certain way that you can just keep the propellers hooked up, land properly, and not get the boat jacked out of shape. And really, how hard you put them in a corner. You know, you can put them in a corner not quite as hard as you did the previous laps, and you're going to notice it when you come out because the guys are going to pull away from you. So it's really, really close on how hard you run those boats, especially now that everything's pretty darn close. So you really got to run them consistent and hard. But the little changes are, you know, on the steering wheel can be a big change on how he enters a corner and what he does in the corner, especially around traffic, where, you know, just a little bit of a different move can make a big difference.
Nice.
But the main thing is probably balance of the boat, shift and weight,
Cool.
and always propeller selection.
So John and Ryan, since we've got one of the younger drivers here, I'd just like you guys to tell Chris what you think it takes to move up a class, if he so desires. But what would you say to young drivers today about how to move up in a class and get to their next level? Start with you, Ryan.
I mean, it's really all about budget, unfortunately, what you can afford to do and what you can't afford to do. And it's like, people ask me, why don't you have a Super Cat? And I can't afford a Super Cat. I'd love to go Super Cat racing if somebody would want me to throttle theirs. I'd love to bring my experience to that and run somebody's bigger boat. But, you know, what's in my budget is what I'm doing.
John?
Well, with me, I always grew up in an engine shop working, and then me and my partner, when we started TNT, working on boats. So I always wanted to be in a race boat since I was a kid. And the only way I could figure out how to be on a race boat was to start working on one. And when we started our own shop, and when I went to work for Healy and Grady Racing Engines, when I got out of high school in 1980, I was in the engine shop for 3 years, and I was building the engines that were going on a lot of the race boats back in the early 80s. So I did whatever I had to do to get a chance to be around one, go to the race and crew them, go to the race and help them out. And then once I started my shop in 1984, when the race shop was disbanding and they were going in the car direction up to Concord, North Carolina, I stayed home and opened up our shop. And when I got an opportunity to work on a race boat, then I just, you know, talked my way into, hey, let me test it. We're working on it. I can test it. I can take it to the races. And then worked my way into getting that opportunity. And my opportunity always came by the way of me and my partner had the shop to work on it, because we never had the money to do it on our own. You know, the only time I raced on my own wallet was I tried my hand at tunnel boat racing, and I want to say around 90, 91, 92, and I ran SST 140 class and a little bit of champ. And I did that for 2 years, and one blowover and barrel roll later, I said, I don't even have the budget to do this. I got to go back to what makes me a living, and got my way back in an offshore boat. But it all came from being able to work on the boat, fix the boats, take care of the boats, house the boats. And that's how I worked my way in. But as far as moving up a class, yeah, unfortunately, like Ryan says, it's a huge budget. And, you know, even in the small classes, it can get terribly expensive. And for a guy trying to do it on his own wallet, it's very difficult, you know, unless he's got help with sponsorship and help with funding or a partner that's going to run the boat with him. But my way has always been, we had the shop, we were able to take care of them and be successful taking care of them. And it was how I accessed getting a ride, by testing, by putting them together and proving that, hey, I can run your boat, and being fortunate enough to get the opportunity to get hired to do it. There was many years in my career when I was running smaller boats, and I just felt, oh, I should have got that ride, or I should have got that ride. I could have done a better job. And it came a point in my life in the early 90s where I just said, you know what, I've lived my dream. I've raced boats. If I never raced it at any other level than I'm doing it now, this was in the early 90s, I did it. And whatever happens, happens. And we kept working on boats, and then opportunities kept coming. And I just kept looking for that opportunity. So I would, you know, tell a guy who wants to move up a class, you know, be at the races, be racing your boat. Maybe you get to know someone that has a larger boat, and maybe you can work your way by offering and providing something better than he has. And maybe you can get that opportunity. And once you get that opportunity, then you got to be successful with it. And when you're successful with it, then it can open other doors and other offers.
Right.
Otherwise, you got to have the money to go do it on your own, and that's difficult.
Yeah. You know, what do you always say, John? 3 and done, or something like that. Ryan, you are probably one of the best at changing the name on the side of your boat and having lots and lots of decals. So how hard is it, or how hard do you work, you know, to get sponsors for your boat. I mean, you know, some people may laugh, but I'll tell you what, you make it happen and you change your primary sponsor maybe, and you're adding a lot of associate decals. I mean, that takes a fair amount of work, and I assume, you know, a lot of people need to be doing what you're doing.
Well, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of persistence, and there's a little bit of sacrifice here and there. You can't have your own name down the side of the boat like the olden days where there'd be a name of boat would be Jesse James or Agitator or something like that. You don't have some cliche-ish name on the side of your boat. But being in my business, I make the wraps myself. That definitely helps. So I'm not having to pay someone to do it. But we kind of have a program down pat, and 90% of the races now, we have the same sponsor at that race every year. And luckily they follow us, or they're waiting for us. I already had the lady from Clearwater call me this year to make sure we were coming to race in Clearwater to save our rooms that we get every year, because our hotel sponsor at the Enchanted Inn in Clearwater, if somebody's looking for rooms. But
Good plug.
And don't forget, Ryan going out and doing that work to be able to provide him racing sponsorship dollars.
Mhm.
That takes probably more time than it does taking care of the boat, working on the boat.
Right.
It's a full-time job trying to market the team and get sponsors. For every one we've put on the boat, we've probably got 30 no's to get that one.
Absolutely.
I sent 20-something emails out last year trying to get a hotel in Fort Myers. I got one reply, one no. Not even 2 emails. One reply out of sending 20 emails to hotels.
Right. You know, we all know what it's like when it's doing that, and it's definitely challenging, but you have to be persistent, you know, to your point. You know,
Yeah, that's
Job by itself.
won't put the time into it.
yeah.
And
Well,
one other thing is, and I tell people this all the time, is you have to do what you say you're going to do. You have to do more than you tell them you're going to do. Don't just say, I'm going to put your sticker on the boat and that's all you do, and then go, well, I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. They won't notice.
right.
Give them more than you tell them you're going to give them. I put the sticker on the boat trailer. They always know, oh, the sticker's on the boat trailer. That's really cool. You did that too. But so many people get a sponsor and don't deliver. It's not about results, obviously, for me, but it's about delivering what you say you're going to do, or doing more to keep sponsors and to get more sponsors. Because I deal with people all the time that I go, well, we sponsored a boat one time, but they didn't really do what they say we're going to do, so we're not going to do it again.
Yeah. Oh, there's definitely a lot of, you know, dead animals in the road, you know, no matter what sport you're in, you know, when it comes to that, you know, and you gotta do the best you can. I mean, obviously as a, you know, sports marketing company for 25 years, I mean, we've probably seen it all, you know, from that standpoint. So,
Well, did you see the Bubba Wallace thing from last week?
Yes.
yeah.
Look how that bit him. How'd that work out?
Yeah. So, well, guys, we're wrapping up on an hour here, and like I said before, it wasn't all meant to be one-sided. So if anybody has something to ask, they can. But you know, we're just playing the waiting game to see what happens. I really hope all the teams can make it out to go wherever they want to go race whenever those opportunities arise. If people are ready to travel, you know, for Race World races, you know, we're starting in Dunkirk and we're going to Clearwater and Key West, and there's a lot of work for us to do, and hopefully there's other races, you know, in between that everybody gets a chance to race at. But I think it's going to be tough times for everybody. You know, I think it's going to be hard. I don't think everyone's going to jump right out of the milling circle and hit it to the first race, but I hope that could be the case. So anybody have any last thoughts? Larry, you have a
No, I just really glad, you know, that we're pulling this deal that we're doing here and showcasing people and putting it out there. I think it's really a good thing, and I really thank you guys for all coming on and spending your time to do this. It means a lot to me and for Race World. Thank you very much.
You guys got comments? Anything?
What's
Everybody
that?
solid?
What's
All right.
that?
I said, everybody's solid? You're good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Well, thanks again, guys. I really appreciate you guys coming on, and we're going to try to keep doing more of these. And you know, and like I said, you know, once a few people get more a little dialed in on technology, you know, they might be able to make it. But you know, so far it's been great, and really it's about just, you know, getting all the racers, no matter who you are, where you race, what class you're in, you know, where you're at. You know, we just want to get people together. And from the first one, you know, everybody was happy to spend time listening to you guys. So just want to thank you guys again coming on, and hopefully we, you know, see you guys on the other side and have some good year coming up.
Let's go.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. See y'all later, man.
Yeah.
Bye.